Hello, this is Amy Brown, Director of Events and Education for Trade Press Media Group. Thank you for joining us for today's webcast, Developing Maintenance Tech Training to Improve Employee Retention. Our presenters today are Rachel Roper and Chris Twitchell. Rachel manages learning and development programs for facility maintenance and management staff and technical staff at CBRE. Chris consults with key accounts to help drive their strategic organizational training initiatives. Chris is based in Dallas, Texas, and has been in the e-learning industry for 16 years. Today's webcast learning objectives include learn to create a comprehensive entry-level maintenance tech training program, discuss developing training programs and organizational certifications for entire maintenance tech and building career development, understand using blended learning solutions, including online learning tools, practical hands-on skill building and verification, and create positive benefits on new employee recruitment, retention, employee morale, and maintenance efficiency. Before we get started with today's webcast, I'd like to cover a few details about today's event. A live question and answer session will follow today's presentation. To submit your questions, please use the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. You might need to scroll over the bottom of the screen for the Q&A option to appear. Our presenters will answer as many questions as time permits. At the conclusion of today's webcast, you'll receive a copy of the PDF. That will come tomorrow in your email. You'll be able to receive a link to a brief online assessment, and upon successful completion of this assessment, you'll receive your CEU certification. Today's webcast will also be archived at facilitiesnet.com/webcasts. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Amy. Welcome, everyone, depending on where you're at. Good morning, good afternoon. We want to thank everyone for taking time out of the day to join us today. Again, this is Chris Twitchell with Vector Solutions. I've been on board with Vector for about 9 years now. And just a little bit of background for those who may not be familiar with Vector Solutions. We are a learning and performance organization with over 30 years in the industry. Our primary focus is to deliver suites of services and products for learning, operational readiness, workforce management, and risk management to the commercial, education, and public sectors. So at Vector Solutions, we've had the pleasure of partnering with the global leader in commercial real estate and facilities management, CBRE. Back in roughly 2013, I asked an executive managing partner at CBRE to help me understand what CBRE's vision is specific to employee development. I was told that CBRE's vision is to implement a world-class learning and compliance solution that would produce the most effective, efficient, and well-trained employees in the industry. 7 years later, I am very pleased to say that based on a tremendous amount of thought leadership, hard work, true collaboration, and dedication to succeed, we have accomplished that goal. So today, we're going to share one of the most critical components of our work together with CBRE that allowed Vector Solutions to align our strategy with CBRE's vision. And that was how to develop a maintenance technician training program to improve employee retention. So we began working on this project in early 2017, really by understanding what CBRE's specific business challenges, goals, and needs were with respect to employee retention. Based on that meeting with CBRE's leadership team, there were 4 specific areas that we needed to focus on to successfully address this challenge: recruitment and hiring, the skills gap, employee retention, and career development. And to walk us through how that solution actually materialized, we are joined by one of the primary architects of the maintenance technician training program and a very well-respected leader within CBRE's Global Workplace Solutions team, and that is Rachel Roper.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chris, for that. And good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Rachel Roper, and I lead learning and development programs for technicians and facility managers at CBRE. And I am thrilled to talk to you today about the tool we work closely with Vector Solutions to develop. So we work together to develop some technology that we could leverage for a comprehensive career development program solution that we call the Sustainable Tech Program, which is a program that took our existing technical certification program and built on that program in order to make a more comprehensive career development program that addresses the skills gap and provides tools that employees were asking for based on employee engagement surveys and things like exit interviews. As we were developing this program and putting our business case together, we also looked at some key metrics to quantify the problem we were trying to solve. For example, what was our technician promotion rate? What's the average age of a technician? What was the US unemployment rate? How many open positions in engineering and facilities management did we have open at any given time? And then comparing the cost of hiring someone externally versus promoting from within. And when I refer to the skills gap, I'm referring to a phenomenon in the trades industry currently where we have more jobs open than we have people searching for blue collar or technical roles. So our program, our solution included several pillars or objectives. The first was our approach to addressing the skills gap. We understood that with a low unemployment rate and many people nearing retirement in our industry, we needed a way to attract people without hands-on experience to our industry. So we developed an apprentice-level program called Tech Entry, which we'll get into a little further in a moment. We also knew our technical certifications were needed and they were leveraged often. So we wanted to continue to offer technical certification. So that was definitely going to be a part of this program. So we call that piece of the program the Tech Advancement Program. But in addition to the technical certifications or the hard skills training that was done, we added some soft skills components and some career planning tools, which we'll talk more about in a moment. Competency cards allowed us at the apprenticeship level and the advanced technician level to track observation of skills in the field. So not only could we verify through a multiple choice training needs assessment and some online curriculum that somebody understood the theory and the skills behind our competencies, we also asked them to demonstrate it in the field so their manager had another way to understand what their skill level was. And throughout this journey, we researched federal resources to understand, things like, was there funding available that would benefit our employees that they could tap into for training? If we made our apprentice program a Department of Labor apprenticeship program, what would be the benefits there? So we spent some time exploring those things and how legislation would impact what we are doing here with this program and with all of our workforce development. And then we also focused on bringing all of our HR business partners and our recruiting team to the table. And we do have a focused recruiting team who is concentrated on maintenance, engineering, and military recruitment. So we're now much more involved with what they do and vice versa, so that we're working more closely together. Okay. So one of the great benefits of this program, by making it not just a training program, but a learning and development program, is, we're supporting succession planning for managers in the organization, and we're also providing a more clear career path for technicians. So as you can see, the roadmap starts with a maintenance tech apprentice, and you could advance through these different levels of certification that support career advancement and skills advancement, not because they're directly tied to promotions, but because the different levels of certification demonstrate to a manager that the employee has a specific skill set and also their commitment to growth by the hours they've committed to obtaining that level of certification. And then beyond the technical levels of certification, we offer a technical leader certification so we can teach some of those business-based skills and leadership skills required to lead a team. Okay, so let's talk about our tech entry program first. This is an apprentice level program. It's a 90-day program, and the goal is to take an individual who has a technical aptitude, meaning they like working with tools, they're good with tools, they enjoy working with their hands, and even if they don't have commercial real estate experience or maintenance experience in a commercial environment, we are going to give them the skills across 9 areas in order to allow them to begin a career as a maintenance technician coming in with little or no experience. So by providing on-the-job practical training and some online learning through Red Vector's LMS, we're able to basically cultivate our own talent from start to finish. So throughout this 90-day program, the technician would have a mentor. It was very important that they were working with somebody who could show them skills and guide them during the first 90 days through up to a year, depending on how quickly they progressed and how quickly they gained independence. And we asked them to complete 3 modules every 30 days. So for example, in the first module, they got an introduction to commercial building maintenance, and they got access to an HVAC and electrical module. And in each of these modules, we address things like safety, troubleshooting, the theory behind the work, the tools required, and of course, things like personal protective equipment. And we leverage what's called micro-learning for this program, and we kept all of our hands-on videos short, 20 minutes or less, and we featured CBRE technicians in each of the videos. So it was relatable, it was to the point, it was very focused on the skills that they needed to learn. So they were spending more time out in the field than they were at the computer, reading their lessons, watching their videos, completing Red Vector safety courses, and their final exams. And then in the field, to address the observation of their skills, the practical component of the program, we leverage what we call competency cards, which are forms that allow us to track the different skills that they've demonstrated. And with this tool, this career development tool we built for this program with Vector Solutions, we are able to create forms as well that support the HR function and help managers keep track of the employee's performance. You know, are they a fit? How are they performing at 30, 60, and 90-day intervals? So they can keep track of that and send that to their HR team. Okay, so just an example of the kind of skills we're teaching at this level, at the apprentice level. On the left, you can see in order to complete the plumbing module, the learning requirements are to do some safety training and then watch a video that teaches you water shutoff, toilet, sink, urinal repair, how to use a hand auger and a power snake, how to recaulk something, how to use other plumbing tools correctly, not to damage the equipment, and an explanation of water pressure. So by the end of this module, after the competency cards are signed off and the online learning is completed, this apprentice should know how to clear the clogged drains, how to isolate a water line, how to do the basic toilet, sink, and urinal repair, and replace caulking. Okay. We also provided some guidelines for hiring managers and HR professionals so that there were some hiring recommendations they could follow, which allowed us to track the program and allowed them to see a cost savings and have a structure to follow so that the manager, the mentor, and the technician are all set up for success. So we created a special job title that they could use. They could bring somebody in anywhere above market, minimum wage that is appropriate for their market. So there's a little bit of cost savings on wages there since they're bringing somebody in below the typical maintenance tech level. They would usually start a new maintenance tech at. And we suggested that compensation increases are offered at regular intervals in order to incentivize the employee to complete this program and to, align with our corporate values and provide world-class performance. And again, I mentioned we have a form that allows their manager to track their performance at regular intervals in addition to all of their learning. And the idea is at the end of the year, this apprentice could apply for that next position. And typically that's the maintenance technician position. So they advance from, a maintenance tech apprentice, which is sort of like a maintenance assistant, to a maintenance tech role. And then, a higher compensation is available at that level. Okay, so that's our apprentice program. We also have what's called a tech advancement program for all of our existing staff, and this is for all of our technical staff. We have maintenance technicians as well as building engineers. Okay, so the name of the platform we developed, I call it the Sustainable Tech Career Development Tool, because it's a mouthful to say both, but it's our tech career development tool, and we were able to really easily integrate this with our corporate LMS, so there was a one-stop shop for our employees to access all of their learning. And within this tool, you can access all of your hard skills training, knowledge assessments. You can keep track of your continuing education, whether it's licenses you're going for or licenses you're trying to keep and need CEUs for. There's a place to track and target soft skills and behavioral skills you'd like to work on, do some career mapping and goal setting. The targeted learning is generated for each employee out of the knowledge assessment. I'll talk about that in a moment. There is a scheduling tool where you can schedule development meetings to either check in quarterly or meet at the beginning of the year and fill out a career development plan for the technician, and a place to identify mentors and keep track of goals. So it's a very comprehensive program. Okay. So the keystone to this tool is the Red Vector Knowledge Assessment tool. This was really important to us because this tool allowed us to create a customized learning plan for each employee based on their score across 17 assessment competency areas. So because all of these questions are mapped to courses and all these competencies are mapped to courses, this allowed our technicians to demonstrate competency in these areas by meeting a benchmark. So if they met the benchmark, no training was assigned, they could move on to the next assessment competency. If they didn't meet the benchmark, then courses were assigned for that area. So you could see how the learning plan could vary person to person based on their assessment results. And for this program, similar to our apprentice program, we leverage what's called competency cards to allow the technician to demonstrate that they can apply the skills. And we found, with a lot of our technicians, they're remote. With some of our corporate clients in the retail industry, it may be a guy in a van, right? So he doesn't see his manager very often. So we added in some flexibility this year with that process so that these competency cards changed from a skills observation exercise to open-ended questions where the technician could answer questions about each skill, and the manager could come in online and virtually mark whether the response met the requirement or didn't. So now all of this can be done 100% virtually, which has been really beneficial during the COVID-19 situation where, a lot of our technicians are at home or they're staggering schedules and they're not seeing their manager. Okay. So a really big component of our workforce development strategy is employee recognition. And, certification levels do two things. It allows the technician to demonstrate their skill level, but it also gives them something to work towards. And we have a lot of technician recognition programs where we provide recognition to the technicians for achieving these different levels. We use certificates, lapel pins, we use an online badging system available in this career development tool, and we do a lot of email recognition as well, so their managers and their contract leaders can see that they've achieved this level of recognition. So not only does their account leadership get recognition, the technician also gets the recognition that way. So as you can see here, these levels of certification, sort of like what was pictured on an earlier slide, support advancement. You start at level 1 if you're a technician. If you're a lead technician, you can start at level 2. We'll meet you where you're at. And once you finish a level of certification, you can advance to the next. So this has become a really great resume builder and a tool for managers to understand, where their technicians are at, how is their skill set. And this is particularly beneficial in our industry if we acquire a contract and a group of techs from another provider and we don't know their skill set. We need that knowledge assessment to understand where we can help them grow their skills and where we can focus and balance our workload based on their assessment results. So reporting has made it really easy to do that, to see the trends and how each person performed on the assessment. Okay. So we wanted to also offer some specialized certification levels through this program for people who had specialized skills or maybe advanced skills. So for example, electrical and refrigeration are advanced levels of certification. Instructor and leadership are soft skills based. And then lubrication and root cause analysis are very popular. They're short micro-learning training series with no assessment, but with final exams. And, we find that these two certifications in the curriculum that they include are applicable to almost all the technicians in the field. All right, so that was a pretty good summary of what the solution is. I wanted to also share a couple of case studies about how this is benefiting our clients and our employees. So the first one I'd like to share is about an employee who works for one of our utility clients and had, at the time, a quarter of their technicians participating voluntarily in this program. And the key word was voluntarily for us. We've really spent a lot of time softening the message around participation in this program because we found you couldn't force people to learn. And, it was more motivating to recognize employees and for other employees to see that they were being recognized than it was to force somebody through a learning exercise. So this individual in this case study very quickly earned the first 4 levels of certification, and he was the first person to do this. At this time, competency cards were done in person with the manager, so it was a significant commitment on behalf of the employee as well as their manager to work together to get all of those signed off. So with the cost of turnover being, about $70,000 per technician, retention is obviously really important to us, especially in such a tight labor market at this time. So for this employee, his name's Robert. He specializes in HVAC and heat pump maintenance with a crew of 6 other engineers. Some of the ways he said this program was beneficial was it increased his curiosity around troubleshooting and diagnostics. So even though something may be sent out to a third party or a vendor, it allowed him to spend some more time understanding the problem before engaging a third party. they were able to save money bringing more work in-house because he got some knowledge in leak detection. And I hear this a lot from technicians. It improves their confidence level. And so they're second guessing themselves less in the field because they've seen what they've seen in the training, right? They have course material to refer back to during troubleshooting. They can relaunch a course if they need to. He stated that specifically in the electrical theory competency area, this significantly increases technical knowledge level. Another thing I hear a lot is there's a lot of healthy competition out in the field with these small teams where if one person gets a certification, they put it up in the shop on the wall somewhere, somebody else sees it and starts asking questions about, you know, how did you get that? And can you show me how to log into that? And it's sort of, you know, they become our best brand ambassadors that way and promoters of this program. And then, of course, this helped him document his long-term advancement goals towards the technical leader role, and he can leverage the technical leader certification to advance some of the soft skills. And the Red Vector courses, of course, are accredited. So he was able to earn some CEUs towards maintenance of his BOMA certification, which if you go out to the market and were to purchase all of those courses is a significant cost. So those are some of the ways that this employee said the program and this tool was beneficial. Okay. And another example here, you know, again, a trend for us and a focus for us is increased self-performance. You know, we're an outsourcing company and we try to do most of the work for our clients in-house, but sometimes we have to call on vendors. So with this employee in this case study here, she said with her new knowledge and skills she gained through the program, she could start to do more motor work and was able to rebuild 2 cooling condenser fan motors and save their site a significant amount of money. She also learned some things that helped her find some cost savings in the water treatment domain by monitoring what the water treatment vendor was doing. He was not treating the water systems correctly. He was running out of treatment chemicals, and he was not recommending some of the cutting edge non-diaphragm chemical pumps. So because she had an understanding through the training of how these were beneficial, when she noticed a lot of those pumps were prone to seize up, she started looking into those non-diaphragm versions herself, and they ended up being a much better solution, and this allowed to get her to get the vendor performance back on track. Okay. And then lastly, just you know, back to our apprenticeship program, one of the first clients to pilot our apprentice program did a pretty thorough case study in order to understand what the projected cost savings would be. And they were on track to save $100,000 within 12 months with this program. The way they were doing it was hiring 14 apprentices in different markets where they were needed to take on some of the general repair and the minor plumbing so that their existing technicians, and after hiring a few HVAC technicians, they could start taking on some of the work that was being sent to vendors, and there was a significant cost savings there. And we followed this client through the program over the past couple years, and many of their apprentices have already graduated from the program and been promoted to maintenance tech level. And if they perform well in this role, they become independent very quickly in a matter of 6 to 9 months, and they end up with their own van and their own route in less than a year. So that was all I had to share today. I am happy to take some questions at this time. So I will go ahead and turn the call back over.
Great, thank you, Rachel. We do have a few questions coming in for both you and Rachel and maybe Chris. Rachel, can you talk a little bit about if all technicians are able to go through this program, or how they get selected? Is that through their manager or through HR?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we wanted to actually remove any administrative choke points in this program. So we allowed technicians to self-enroll so that they could get started on their own without a manager's approval or without an administrator giving them access. Their manager can also sign them up for the program, or the client can identify an administrator who handles that step. So it's very flexible. It can happen in 3 ways, and there's no cost to the technician. We've kind of baked the cost of learning in already. So, that's another hurdle we removed.
Great. Is there a screening process that determines if someone can skip some of the entry-level programming, or what level they come into? How is that understood?
Sure. So what we typically do is just give some basic guidelines. We say, there are 4 levels of certification that we recommend you start with. And based on your job title, you would either start with 1, 2, 3, or 4. Unless you're an apprentice, you would start with tech entry.
Great. Is the content you've developed as part of this program, is that specific to CBRE, or is that content that CBRE developed, or did you work with Vector Solutions to develop that content?
Yeah, so we worked together, and we made it possible for Vector Solutions to provide those 20-minute micro-learning videos that we developed and extend those to other clients. And so those are now available, and they were translated into Spanish, French, and Portuguese. So they're available in 4 languages.
Great. And this might be a question for either Chris or Rachel. Obviously, CBRE is a large organization that has a lot of resources behind it. Somebody that's maybe with a smaller organization that might not have a learning and training development team, how can some of the aspects that CBRE's developed, how can that apply to a smaller organization that might not have the resources behind it?
Understood. So this is Chris Twitchell. So really, when we work with clients, every solution is different. We certainly understand that CBRE is a global leader in the industry. So it's the program that we put together, there's a lot of moving parts to it and takes a good deal of time to implement. We also do the same for smaller organizations. And really what it comes down to is understanding what their goals are. And then what we do is we kind of back into it from there. So we can certainly put a program like this together for a smaller organization. It will look a little different. It just all depends on what the outcome has to be based on the direction the company wants to go.
Great. Somebody's asking a question. They're finding it hard to keep employees motivated to continue with training and to move through training programs. Any thoughts on how you keep your employees engaged and motivated for training?
Recognition. We post photos of people with their certificates. We encourage celebrations at the site level, whether it's pizza or cake. And, we recognize our technicians in a lot of different ways, so they understand that what they're doing matters, and we noticed it, and, we want them to have a certificate in hand. I also hear, it varies by client, but some decide to bake in learning goals into the annual performance goals, right? So they're held accountable at the end of the year for taking this on.
Great. Rachel, can you just talk a little bit about what you're seeing as the preferred method? I know we've talked about some different online components and hands-on skill building components. Are you seeing people rather have an online component or an in-person component? Can you just talk a little bit about what you're seeing as the ideal learning scenario for your technician program?
Yeah, so for us, a lot of learning happens on the job, and statistically, people like to learn on the job. That's really the preferred way. But with our technicians, they're out in the field, so many of them are mobile, or they're not sitting in front of a computer, so they need a mobile solution. They need to be able to open up their tablet, log on, do a little bit of work, and then get back to their job. So I think the mobile self-paced learning solution is really ideal for our workforce.
Great. We have another question. Do the journey person training paths for electricians, HVAC, plumbers, does that result in a state-sponsored trade license for the technician, or how do you work with some of the state licensing boards?
We really don't, because we're such a large organization. We know employees will get CEUs when they're working through the courses for some of those certification levels, but those truly are proprietary certification levels. And we encourage folks to still go out and get the necessary external licenses needed to do their job, and keep track of all of those licenses in this tool here.
Great. And can you talk a little bit about how this program, is this something that you can intertwine with an HR department to carry out the training, or how does the technicians management team work with HR to get through the training?
So we do see a lot of our HR managers involved in oversight of the program and the communications component of it. But oftentimes, our operations managers, or, if our client has a learning and development manager on staff, they will champion this program. But, they typically will work really closely together, the operations team and the HR team, to champion this program.
Great. Somebody's just asking, in regards to efficiency and asset life, particularly with HVAC, what feedback is given to the tech so that they can see their results and their baseline to the others that have participated in it in their position?
That is an interesting question. If I can take that offline, I can get an answer and get back to you. I may not understand it 100%, so I'd like to be able to follow up on that one if I can.
Sure. And we've had a few people, this might be more for Chris, we've had a few people that say they're already working with Red Vector, or they're, partnering with Red Vector, and they were asking if they'll have access to some of the competency tests or programs that have been developed with CBRE.
Sure. The short answer is yes, absolutely. So what we've built with CBRE is very CBRE specific. However, the foundation is in place to work with all of our additional customers based on the direction they want to take the program. So what we would do is work with them to understand, again, what they want to accomplish, and that's where we would build the program from. But the tools such as the online learning and the knowledge assessment tool, those items are available to all of our customers today. And that is a great way to begin a program. We will work side by side with the customer to implement that program. It usually takes a good deal of time. However, it is certainly well worth it to grow not only the skill sets within their base, but also one of the big benefits we see is in the hiring process. It allows you to go ahead and pre-select folks in the interview process and even assess them before they come on board, just to get a baseline of where their skill set is today.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Rachel, how long does it take typically for a technician or an employee to complete the program?
So if you take one of our more comprehensive levels, the first 4 levels of certification, the core and advanced certifications, it's about an hour for the assessment. The courses are only 20 minutes long, so depending on how they did on the assessment, 17 competency areas, 20-minute courses for each area. It can vary, a few hours, of coursework there. And then the competency cards take about an hour for the tech, and then an hour for the manager to review. So, somebody could get their certification in less than 20 hours.
Rachel, would you be able to give a little bit more information about those competency cards and how that process works?
Sure. So the concept of a competency card comes from the Navy in a Navy nuclear sub environment where they had something called system qualification cards. So if there are any veterans, you may be familiar with system qualification cards where you're asked to demonstrate certain things, certain skills with the equipment, and somebody would observe and initial when you've completed the different skills. So we basically took those cards because some of our employees on our technical leadership team came from that environment, and we adapted those to our organization. And basically, you know, we have 17 competency areas or building systems, and we ask questions about how to apply knowledge in each of those areas. And the employee would either demonstrate it out in the field, and their manager would sign off if they did it correctly. If they didn't, it was a teaching tool. It was a coaching moment for the manager to explain the proper way to do it before signing off. And the way we do those now remotely is through open-ended questions about each skill, where we ask a question, employee has free text field to answer the question in their own words, and a process where a manager can click a met requirements or didn't meet requirements button, do coaching if necessary, and then sign off. I hope that answered the question.
Great, I think that was a great explanation. And then, Rachel, are the certifications tied directly to promotions or, you know, their salary or any kind of benefits?
You know, sometimes loosely. I mean, you could say they are if the employee has learning goals in their annual performance review tied to this program and they met them. You know, it would be up to the manager to decide whether to tie it to compensation or advancement.
Great. Just a reminder, we are selecting questions that are coming in from the Q&A panel. You can just scroll over the bottom of the screen and click on the Q&A window there and type in your question for either Chris or Rachel. And I think we've gotten to many of the questions so far. Chris, for Vector Solutions or Red Vector, are you working with any government agencies, or do you have ties to any of the government organizations? A few people are asking if you're working with some government agencies.
Yes, we do. We have a channels division whose sole responsibility is to work with our government accounts. So we certainly do have very similar solutions for any type of government account.
Great. And then a few people, Rachel, are just asking about the hands-on component of the training. Can you talk a little bit about what that would include?
Sure. So, you know, for our apprentice level program, we have a competency card. A manager would open it on a tablet, walk the site with the apprentice. They would ask them to perform the skills on the card. Apprentice would do that. They would do some coaching on the areas where the apprentice didn't do it correctly, and then they would sign off electronically on a tablet, or, you know, maybe even print it off, write on it, and come back to their PC and initial next to all the skills that the apprentice completed.
Great. And then somebody's asking, do you supply training manuals, or how does it work if one individual wants to expand into other areas or other trades?
You know, everything we do for learning for our technical staff is now really housed in this tool. So, you know, they may go to external providers for equipment-specific training, or for manuals specific to that equipment, but our learning program is all part of this career development tool.
Great. Another question that's just come in is, what changes have you made since you initiated this program? Is there any key points that you've realized as you started implementing this program that's kind of changed the overall look or feel of it?
Yeah, we've learned simpler is better, shorter courses, more specific to our industry, simpler competency cards, the flexibility to do them online if meeting with a manager in person was a problem. So, also translations allowed us to expand this program to the French-speaking areas of Canada and to our Latin America colleagues.
Wonderful. And right now, Rachel, are you working with any of the universities to partner with some of this training development? Or Chris, are you working with any university partners?
Not us.
Yes, as a matter of fact.
What about you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rachel. We do actually. We work with several higher educational institutions, as well as the K through 12 arena. For the higher ed institutions, typically what we've done, where it started, was with community colleges as part of a 2-year maintenance training program. We've been able to implement our web-based content along with their instructor-led content. And for the K through 12 arena, we work with their facilities department to implement an FM solution that would include not only the web-based content, but also the knowledge assessment tool that Rachel had discussed earlier. So the short answer is yes. We do work with K through 12 all the way up through higher education.
And Chris, we're getting a few questions in, and I know this would probably be an offline discussion with many of the individuals, but they're just asking about overall pricing and what kind of investment some kind of training program like this would be on a smaller scale. Okay.
So at Vector Solutions, we have a good deal of flexibility and scalability. So it can be priced, in several different ways, and it's hard to give a price, over a webinar without understanding the solution. But I'll try to answer that as best I can. So the pricing structure is typically on a per user basis, and what that includes is a certain number of users, the content libraries that are needed, and then how many folks would access the knowledge assessment tool. So it would be a combination of those items. But what we would do is work with the client to understand their needs. We have in our entire library, we have over 9,000 web-based courses. We understand that no client will need access to 9,000 courses. So what we prefer to do is to put a solution together that makes sense. It's a very prescriptive solution that has dedicated learning plans for each employee. And then of course, how we answer the question of what training do we or should we provide is based on the results of the knowledge assessment tool. It answers that question. We understand we have to provide training, but is it the right training? And that's how we can answer that question.
Great, I think that's really helpful. Perfect. I think that comes to the conclusion of some of our Q&A questions. Rachel or Chris, do you have any last comments you'd like to make to the audience?
This is Chris. I just, again, want to thank everyone for taking the time today. Feel free to reach out to us directly at Vector Solutions. We're more than happy to answer any questions that we may not have gotten to today. And I certainly want to thank Rachel. She always does a fantastic job and is one of the primary architects of this program. Has really brought the full solution to fruition, and we couldn't be happier to partner with them.
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Wonderful, and thank you both, Rachel and Chris, for bringing us this information today. Just a reminder, tomorrow you will get an email from Zoom that will include a link to the slides used today, and then also your CEU links. So if you would like to earn credits for participating in this webcast, you can answer 4 very quick true-false questions and then earn a certificate that you can submit to any body of knowledge that you need to earn CEUs for. With that, I'd like to conclude today's webinar, and thank you very much and have a wonderful day.